I came home one evening, still sore from recovery and eager to rest in my own room, my sanctuary. But when I opened the door, I froze. My furniture was gone. The framed photos that once lined my walls were missing. My belongings, all of them, had been shoved into the basement like unwanted junk. I stood there for a moment, feeling the sting of disbelief slowly morph into something deeper: betrayal. It didn't take long to figure out why. My daughter, Emma, appeared at the top of the stairs, wringing her hands nervously. Behind her stood her husband, James, calm, collected, avoiding my eyes. Emma's voice trembled when she finally spoke. "Dad, we had to make space. James's parents are moving in for a while." At first, I thought I'd misheard her. "What do you mean for a while?" I asked, my voice low, steady, the kind of steady that comes before a storm. She flinched. "Just until they get back on their feet. You have the basement. It's comfortable enough." The words hit me like a slap. The basement. The place I used to store tools and boxes, now my home? James cleared his throat, his tone dripping with condescension. "It's not a big deal, really. You'll still have privacy down there. We just needed to make some adjustments." Adjustments. That's what they called it. Throwing me out of my own space to make room for people who barely said hello to me at holidays. I looked at my daughter, the same little girl whose scraped knees I once patched up, whose tears I once wiped away. Now she couldn't even meet my eyes. I turned and walked downstairs, my footsteps echoing hollowly on the wooden steps. When I reached the basement, I saw boxes stacked haphazardly, my clothes tossed on top of old storage bins. My bed was crammed into a corner beside the water heater. The smell of dust and damp concrete hung in the air. This wasn't a room. It was an insult. For a while I just stood there, silent, numb. But beneath that silence, something started to stir. Something fierce and unyielding. They thought I'd just accept this, that I'd quietly fade into the background like old wallpaper. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. Over the next few days, I noticed the subtle changes. The way Emma avoided conversation, how James strutted around like the king of the house, and how his parents acted as though they'd lived there forever. They sat in my chair. They rearranged my kitchen. They even threw out some of my belongings, claiming they didn't fit the decor. The humiliation burned. Every time I walked past them, I could feel their judgment. It wasn't just about space, it was about control. They wanted me to shrink, to accept the role of an inconvenience in my own home. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. One evening, after another awkward dinner where James's parents criticized my old-fashioned manners, I excused myself and went down to the basement. Sitting on that narrow bed, I stared at the faded family photo I'd kept beside me. Emma, smiling between me and her late mother. My wife had always been the peacemaker, the one who believed that family could overcome anything. But she was gone, and I realized that peace was no longer an option. That night, something in me snapped. The grief, the hurt, the endless compromise. All of it hardened into resolve. If they wanted to treat me like a burden, then I would remind them exactly whose roof they were living under. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I showered, shaved, and put on my best suit, the one I used to wear to business meetings years ago. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back at me. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't fragile. He was focused. I went upstairs, calm and deliberate. Emma blinked in surprise when she saw me dressed so sharply. "Dad, you're up early. Going somewhere?" "Yes," I said evenly. "I've got some business to handle." James smirked from behind his newspaper. "Business? I thought you retired." I met his gaze. "Some things are never really over." I walked out the door before they could ask anything else. My destination, the bank. 4 years. I'd kept a rainy day account. One even Emma didn't know about. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And it was more than enough for what I had in mind. As the teller handed me the envelope with the withdrawal, thick, heavy, filled with crisp bills, I felt that familiar sense of control return. $12,000. Enough to make things happen. On my way out, I called my lawyer, Ms. Green. She was sharp, efficient, and, most importantly, discreet. I told her I needed to discuss property rights and potential transfers. She didn't ask why. She just said, "Come in this afternoon." That day, I signed the preliminary papers to transfer ownership of the house into a living trust, one with very specific terms. Terms that would make my daughter and her husband tenants, not owners, under my full authority. They wanted to play games with my home? Fine, I play better. But I wasn't done. The next weekend, I called a cleaning service and a contractor. "I'm renovating the basement," I said. "I want it finished quickly." Within days, they arrived with materials, equipment, and paint. The sound of hammers and drills filled the house. Emma came downstairs, looking flustered. "Dad, what's going on?" I smiled. "Just making my space more comfortable." James appeared behind her, arms crossed. "You could have told us first. This is disruptive." I shrugged. "Oh, I didn't realize I needed permission to improve my property." That shut him up fast. For the next 2 weeks, the house buzzed with activity. The basement was transformed into a private suite. New flooring, fresh paint, custom lighting, even a small kitchenette. But what they didn't know was that I'd also installed a private lock, separate from the main entrance. From now on, my space was mine alone. The first night I slept there after the renovation, I lay in bed listening to the muffled sounds above me. Laughter, footsteps, clinking glasses. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. But the best part was yet to come. A month later, when the in-laws began overstaying their welcome, tension started to rise. The polite smiles turned to snide remarks. The temporary stay stretched into months, and the house became a battlefield of passive aggression. Then came the night I'd been waiting for. I returned home from the notary's office with a sealed envelope in my pocket, the final papers making me the sole controlling trustee of the property. Inside the house, I found Emma in tears and James sitting silently, pale and tight-lipped. Apparently, his parents had gotten into a heated argument with him, accusing him of promising too much. When I walked in, Emma looked up, red-eyed. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." For a brief moment, I saw the daughter I used to know, kind, gentle, remorseful. But I also knew she'd let it happen. She'd let them disrespect me, humiliate me, and treat me like a stranger. James glanced at me, his tone defensive. "Look, we just wanted to help my parents. It's not our fault you took it personally." I set the envelope on the table and looked him dead in the eye. "You're right. It's not your fault." He blinked, confused. "What?" "It's your consequence." I handed him the papers. As he opened them, I could see the color drain from his face. Emma leaned over, reading the lines aloud. "Transfer of property. Trustee authority." "Wait, Dad, what is this?" "It's a legal document," I said calmly. "As of today, this house operates under my trust. You and James are no longer listed as primary residents. You're guests until I decide otherwise." James jumped to his feet. "You can't do that." I smiled faintly. "I already did." Emma's voice cracked. "Dad, please." I shook my head gently. "No, sweetheart. I've spent too long being everyone's afterthought. I gave you this roof. I gave you my love. But you let them push me aside like garbage. So now, I'm taking back what's mine." Silence filled the room. Then, slowly, I turned and walked toward the stairs. Halfway up, I paused. "Oh, and James," I added, glancing back. "You and your parents have 2 weeks to find new accommodations. I'll have the new rental agreements ready tomorrow." He didn't say a word. That night, I sat in my newly renovated basement, my sanctuary, sipping tea, listening to the faint sound of doors closing upstairs. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. I felt like the owner again. And that, right there, was my revenge, quiet, clean, and deeply satisfying. Sometimes justice doesn't need shouting. Sometimes it's just a signed document, a sealed envelope, and the look of shock on someone's face when they realize they underestimated you. If this story hit you right in the heart, Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Betrayed Narratives, where we turn heartbreak into power and betrayal into the sweetest form of redemption. Because here, every story proves one thing: you can push a good person only so far before they finally push back.